Well, I am Mayor Wayne Messam from the beautiful city of Miramar. It is such a pleasure to be here in Columbus, Ohio with everyone and to see so many friendly and nice faces here today. I have the pleasure of moderating a great topic discussion. You know, oftentimes in our sessions, our policy committee meetings, or just discussions, in between our events here at NBC Leo and at the National League of Cities, we talk about the criminal justice system and the judicial system and just some of the many issues that are challenging many of our communities across the country. And we'd like to talk about this topic, which is achieving restorative justice through specialty dockets. A crisis that is plaguing our criminal justice and judicial systems nationwide is the management of these offenses. And we have a tremendous strain on our criminal justice as well as our judicial systems to adjudicate these cases. And we know that traditional sentencing doesn't necessarily solve the problem because a lot of these offenders and victims are either habitually and repetitively offended and victimized during the process. So we know that many of the victims, and the offenders, they need medical assistance to help them and other solutions that will help curb the recidivism of their activities. And today we're here to discuss how Franklin County here in Ohio is addressing that challenge. And before we get into our panel discussion, just for some of us who may not necessarily be familiar with restorative justice, but it's simply an approach to justice that focuses on the needs of the victims and the offenders, as well as getting all that are involved in the process. This contrasts to more punitive approaches where the main aim is to punish the offender or satisfy abstract legal principles. Victims take an active role in the process. Meanwhile, offenders are encouraged to take responsibility for their actions, to repair the harm that they've done by apologizing, returning stolen money, or performing community service. In addition, the restorative justice approach aims to help the offender to avoid future offenses. The approach is based on a theory of justice that considers crime and wrongdoing to be an offense against an individual or a community rather than the state. Restorative justice that fosters dialogue between victims and offenders has shown the highest rates of victim satisfaction and offender accountability. And just briefly, specialty dockets are basically they're special courts, used to adjudicate cases in our court systems. And I think the state of Ohio have over 80 such specialty, about 80 such specialty dockets. And we'll be discussing the approach that is being done here in Franklin County. So in terms of our topic today, to achieving restorative justice through specialty dockets, specialized dockets go hand in hand with restorative justice. The primary focus of these problem-solving courts is to provide treatment instead of incarceration in a concerted effort to reduce future contacts with the criminal justice system. The goal of specialty dockets is to help ensure that an adequate treatment response is accessible to nonviolent offenders exhibiting histories of alcohol, chemical, or substance dependency, abuse, or solicitation. Since its launch in 2009, there has been a proliferation in drug court specialty dockets. In Franklin County alone, these dockets have also expanded to include mental health, solicitation, and human trafficking, which is called their catch court, a veterans court, and now a specialty court to deal with the opiate epidemic, heroin court. So it is my extreme pleasure to be able to have a discussion with our distinguished panelists here today. And we will first start with the Honorable Scott Vandekar. I think I'm pronouncing that right. You did. First try, Us Florida State Seminoles usually get that right. Ow. And already started. Honorable Scott Vandekar is a consultant and addiction specialist with Caucus Law Firm. He's a former judge in the Franklin County Municipal Court. He fought to bring single assignment so that defendants would interact with only one judge, and one of the first judges to give drug offenders a second chance. So at this time, please help me in welcoming Honorable Scott Vandekar.
Thank you, Mayor Messam. I appreciate you coming to our great state, and I won't say anything about the Buckeyes. I'll leave it alone. President Tyson, thank you for having us here. We appreciate you. Today is really about my best friend seated to my right, Judge Herbert, and his human trafficking and his passion to solve the human trafficking problem. We've been friends for like 30 years, but we're not counting how old we were then. I mentioned to the mayor that I graduated from high school in his great state, and I said it was before he was born, and he questioned that. So I told him what year. He was 1 when I graduated from high school. Collaboration is the word. If you don't have specialty dockets or specialty courts in your jurisdiction, collaboration is the word. In 2001, I had a Supreme Court justice come to me and talk to me about starting a mental health court. It took me 2.5 years to get through the hard-headed judges that this is what we needed to do. In 2004, we started mental health court with about a $25,000 budget. Basically, City Council, the commissioners, and what we call the ADAM Board, our mental health, drug addiction county board, put together kind of matching funds to our $25,000. So we started with about $50,000. In 2009, the county prosecutor called me and said, "Do you want a drug court?" I quickly ran over to Judge Herbert's office and said, "God called," because I knew that was going to be the beginning of getting a drug court, and he would be able to start his human trafficking court that he had wanted to do for a number of years at that point. In 2010, we started an opiate court for the obvious reasons of the problems in our society about heroin at the moment. In 2012, we started a veterans court. We had about everything. There are some jurisdictions in Ohio and in other states that maybe have a domestic violence specialty docket, maybe have an OVI specialty docket. Our common pleas court has one that focuses on financial commercial issues. And I just wanted to quickly, my time was just to introduce Judge Herbert and how great he is, but I wanted to tell you what a specialty docket was, and the mayor stole all my words, really. But on a practical basis, what you do is you have a staffing, and you have chemical dependency or social workers in a room with your staff, with the judge, with the prosecutor, with the defense attorney, and you sit there and you talk. Is this person, like for mental health court, do they have an Axis 1 mental health diagnosis? Will they cooperate with you in working with you? Then they are put in a two-year-long program. They are seen by the judge every single week. And that accountability of seeing a judge every single week over a 2-year period of time is what brings about the change. And there's a lot of other things I could talk forever about, but I won't. In my case, my passion became the opiate epidemic. We were being 70% successful, and I said, I've got to go around Ohio and then to other states and get drug courts started, specialty dockets started, because they change lives. And if you can be 70% successful, but we did that again through collaboration. Half the money from the lady sitting in front of me, that's why I got to say thank you again to President Tyson, and half the money from our county commissioners. With that, I'll save all my time for my best friend, and we'll come back to questions later. Mayor?
Yes, thanks so much. And that was a great layup in terms of explaining and putting the groundwork. And I know that we have some questions that will come forth from the audience later, and I'll field some as well, because you did mention about, the heroin courts, and one of the questions that we want to address in terms of is it exclusive? Is it exclusive to opiates, or are other drugs or narcotics also included as well? And we look forward to hearing.
I'll address it at the end.
Exactly. So, Okay, our next panelist, well, first, thank you, Honorable Paul Herbert, for that introduction. As our next panelist is, I guess will be, not Paul Herbert, but Scott Vanderkar.
I'm Scott Vanderkar,
Yes.
Judge Herbert. You're right.
Before,
That's how Seminole does it.
well, I'm just checking to see if a Buckeye was paying attention in class. Well, our next panelist is the Honorable Paul Herbert. I'm right here from the Franklin County Municipal Court. And before he gives his comments, we have a short video to play.
Thank you, everybody, for letting me be here, or I guess all of us here. I used to have a boss that when we would deal with city councils, he would say, you know, it's really, Paul, it's the golden rule. And I'm like, the golden rule? He goes, yeah, those who have the gold make the rules. And so what you guys have is an amazing ability to make things happen. So I had an idea, but it couldn't happen without the support of President Tyson and the other members of City Council and the mayor. And so you guys can take these ideas back and you can start asking questions. Hey, do we want to save in jail costs because it's dramatic? You know, do we want to stop the revolving door of prostitutes through our neighborhoods? You know, do we want to start to then save the lives of these beautiful women and girls in our community? So really, you have a tremendous amount of influence just because of the fact of your jobs. So I really want to underscore that. It also requires learning how to be a different judge, which you'll see me act up there on this video. You know, it's going from the old school judge of what's wrong with you? You know that judge? We've all seen that judge, right? To looking at a person and saying, I wonder what happened to you. You know, and it's that look in your eye with them that tells them, and Barb may describe a little bit of that to you in her own terms. You're going to see her. She's one of the stars of our video. But what we have here in our nation is one epidemic fueling another epidemic. So we have the heroin epidemic that's fueling the sex trafficking epidemic because you're getting women and girls of record numbers hooked on drugs, and it really winds up being a situation where they become vulnerable and put into positions where they're turned out. So we've had a lot of success, and I owe that to Priscilla Tyson and City Council and the mayor. And I'm going to say, I just say I was at the right place, the guy that was at the right place at the right time, but this movement is having success. I got to actually go meet with Eric Holder last year and tell him the Justice Department wanted to know about this program, and he gave us an award for the most innovative justice program in America, and he's a really cool dude, actually, smart guy. So now, with that, I want to play the video, and then I want Barb Freeman to tell you about her life. And I think it might have timed out on us, huh? There's Chris.
But a Franklin County judge is working to change the way we look at prostitutes and the dark, brutal business of selling sex in Central Ohio. 10 TV News reporter Glenn McIntyre takes us inside Catch Court.
It's Thursday afternoon in courtroom 12C, in the words of some, where miracles happen. The Honorable Paul Herbert presiding, Catch Court is now in session.
Do you happen to know what CAT stands for?
Changing actions.
Yeah!
On this Thursday, there are women new to the program.
I've been going through this for the last 7 years. In and out of my children's lives, having babies, sleeping on with them.
And there are those who've completed it.
I graduated over 2 years ago, almost 3 years. You know what I'm saying? And I still come back because I need my sisters.
And there are many in between. They are sisters of the streets.
No, y'all didn't sit there with me when I was going through it, but guess what? Y'all my sisters because we all linked together. You know what I'm saying? We all was prostitutes.
Prostitutes, a word that conjures many images, none of them positive. But the man running this court says it's past time to change how we perceive prostitution in our city.
Part of my mission is to change the culture.
Judge Paul Herbert admits he wasn't always so enlightened.
I was the guy that used to say, this is the world's oldest profession. You would have heard those words come out of my mouth. I was the guy that would have said this is a victimless crime. 2 consenting adults, change of money.
He recalls the day of his epiphany. His bench was buried under dozens of protection orders related to domestic violence cases.
After seeing victim after victim, you see the bright red marks from the choking, clumps of hair pulled out, black eyes, cuts, burns, broken bones, pictures from hospital rooms. I was getting overwhelmed with this sea of horrible things that people do to other people. And I actually was sitting there saying, how could I not do this, and how could I pick another career? And then the sheriff brought the next defendant out on the wall, and I looked over, and for a split second, I mean it was a fraction of a second, I saw a domestic violence victim, but she was a defendant. And so I looked down at the file, and it said prostitute.
It drove him to learn more.
What influences, forces, and other things might impact a woman in order for her to take what's most personally precious and sell it to vile strangers. And from there, that's when I learned the amazing statistics behind the truth.
Like the fact that 1/3 of all prostitutes are first sold for sex before their 15th birthday, 62% before their 18th birthday.
So you're dealing with young girls that aren't even of legal consent getting involved in this.
96% of them are runaways, 72% of them driven from home by physical or sexual abuse.
So that's how they get out there. And then someone's looking for them. Someone's willing to talk to them, someone's willing to be nice, someone's willing to listen, someone's willing to take them in, treat them extremely well, and start that process of grooming them to first dance in a club, or maybe take photographs, and then they introduce drugs and maybe a child, they get them pregnant.
Desperate for shelter, protection, and now drugs, they are methodically broken down and turned out, sold for sex.
Little did I know, really, I was ignorant, what was behind this, and that there was this clandestine system of pimps and traffickers who were using these women for their own financial gain, and that there was this elaborate system to manipulate and control and hold them down to be slaves to the drugs, be slaves to their lies.
Today, Herbert's eyes are open to the brutal, sadistic world of human trafficking in Central Ohio, and what he's seen is horrific.
The human traffickers and pimps, they have a game they play. It's called a 150. And a 150 is where they take bets, and they see who can beat a woman to the closest point to where she needs 150 stitches worth of damage. And it's just a game they play. Broken bones, multiple rapes, pimps will slip them a roofie, and they'll wake up in Akron at a bachelor party being raped by 7 guys. It's common sort of things that happen, and that guy made a ton of money off that.
Who survives such horrors? These women do. Vanessa Cooper remembers her lowest point, on the streets after a car accident that had broken her back in 3 places.
Probably not even a month after I had gotten out of the hospital, and I still have on this big plastic back brace, and I found myself on the corner of Main and Berkeley in a back brace, prostituting and getting in and out of cars. You know, and people still picked me up, like they didn't even care. I found myself sometimes standing on the corner, like praying to God, like, how do I get out of this? You know, like, how do I get away from this?
For Vanessa and dozens of other women, catch court was that answer. Instead of continually cycling solicitation defendants through the system as criminals who willingly break the law, catch court recognizes them as crime victims in need of help.
When I looked at the traumatic stress they've been through, the depression that they're in, the homelessness, job skills, the shame and guilt that comes along with our society placing on them, I thought it would be a great challenge to try to figure out a way to treat these folks differently.
As part of that different approach, instead of once-a-month probation meetings, for some, they are once a day. There are weekly court hearings like this one. There is gender-specific, trauma-based counseling along with drug and alcohol treatment. And there are rules. Parts of town they can't go, people they can't see.
We have a curfew, and we have a set time for curfew. And I want everybody to tell it. When's the curfew? Dark. It's easy, right? So when the sun goes down, Tiffany goes in, right? Or you have to be with someone safe, because nothing good happens after dark, right?
Along with the restrictions comes support from those who have been there.
And I know I need them, but it's tearing me up inside. It's so much inside me. It's tearing me up.
You gotta talk about it every day, and you know what, y'all? She lonely. What you need from your sisters?
Some love.
Turn around and talk to them.
Some love.
It's okay. Save your life.
They are treated with decency and simple dignity.
God put a seed in your heart to look at women as women and us as women and not as prostitutes and crackheads. And that's a real true honor to be looked at as a woman today.
2 years removed from the darkness of the streets comes the light of a new life. No longer posing for mugshots, today's photos commemorate a day of achievement, Graduation Day.
The women of the Catch Court program. To know them will inspire you. These are amazing women.
Women like Vanessa Cooper.
I'm a full-time student at Columbus State. I've been on the Dean's List, and I was recently inducted into Phi Theta Kappa.
Jennifer Evans.
I'm real proud of myself today. And I like myself today, and that's a huge thing. You know, before I was totally disgusted with myself. I mean, I prayed to God every day that God would take me, and even He didn't want me.
Yvette Graham.
I felt really privileged and blessed. To be one of the few women who took the time to give herself another chance at life. And it is worth living. We are worth living. We are worth fighting for.
Vanessa Perkins.
There are people here today who have saved my life. Today I have a purpose, a reason to live. Because today I'm a graduate of Catch, and that's just
Along with a diploma and a photo album detailing their long journey.
And I also hand them something else. I hand them a piece of paper that dismisses and seals all their convictions. It's like your debt's paid, you're free. And they love that.
Some of what they receive can't be quantified or spelled out on any piece of paper.
When you see that woman who's almost dead, been taken advantage of since she was 14 years old, sold into a gang, and then she becomes that, that's amazing.
Herbert is convinced, recognizing these women as victims, not criminals, providing support instead of just a jail sentence, is how you turn a victim into a survivor.
They're going to college, they're getting valid driver's licenses, they're paying taxes, they're being reunited with their family, they're giving back to their community. That's what justice ought to be about.
That powerful picture you saw of a woman bloodied and beaten is Wendy Miller, who today celebrates more than 1,000 days sober. In its first 4 years, Catch Court's graduation rate is just 12%. But among those who have graduated, more than 90% have successfully moved on with no new charges. You can learn more about the program and its successes on 10tv.com/10TV News Presents.
So I thought that might be good for you to kind of really get into that. I know it's kind of a longer video, but you really get a sense for how great these women are and how important these women are to our communities and what they can become if they're just given a chance. And so these dramatic results, are something that I just live for. Like, it's today, today's Thursday, and I'm headed back down. I'm going to be, now we have 44 women in the program. Our graduation's up to 40%. Everything is going better. But let me introduce you to one of the very first women to ever take a chance and come to catch court. Barb Freeman was sitting in jail, and I believe she was offered a time-served sentence and said, I don't want out. I'm going to die. I want to go to this thing. She'll tell you the story a little bit better. We didn't even have a name for it, and she demanded to be there. And if it wasn't for the resolution in her and a couple of the other women that started this, we wouldn't have it today, because we were just learning this as it went. So Barb has had a phenomenal story, and I just want to give the rest of the time to her, and then we're going to hear from the prosecutor's office that without them as well allowing this to happen, got to have the prosecutors on board too. So we're trying to put it all together for you here, and let me introduce Barb Freeman.
Thank you. First and foremost, I want to give honor to God just for being here today, because the way that I live my life, I would have never thought that I would be living to see myself on the other side. I also want to thank Ms. Tyson for inviting me to be here today, and also for the judges and the city prosecutor and everybody that does such great work to make changes in life for women that have went through some of the things that I went through, not only women, but men too. So let me just start off by letting you know that I moved here from Alabama when I was 11. I came to Columbus, Ohio, grew up in a very dysfunctional family, mother being abused, and what ended up happening is being a young girl and being, whooped by a father to the extreme that's not even really my father. I got the wrong conception of love. I thought love consisted of someone who put their hands on you because they care about you and different things of that matter. And because of what my mom was going through in her life, she couldn't actually, she could have, but so much was going on with her, she couldn't really see what was going on with her children. So I ended up being addicted to drugs at the age of 16, not even knowing what it was, and it was crack cocaine. And a man done it because he was so infatuated with me, and he knew that that was a way to get me, so he was coercing me. He was giving me money, he was giving me jewelry, he was giving me all these nice things to take me away from self and to where it started being about him. What ended up happening was that I was showed the streets, stuck in a room for hours, showing how to sell my body for money. And it wasn't for my profit, it was for his profit. At that time, when I told my parents that I was going through something that was so going to destruct my life, I was put out. So I was put onto the streets at the age of 16, so where do a 16-year-old go? Once you see a 16-year-old walking up and down the street, or so many times or looking lost, that's just a way right there for the pimps, the drug dealers, to get you. And a lot of parents don't understand that. One of the things coming up in my days, the parents' first thing they say, well, you can get out. Well, it wasn't you can get out for me because I wouldn't have went nowhere. It was that I was put out. So what ended up happening is that just being on all different sides of towns, being pimped out by different pimps, starting to be raped, been raped 23 times, body left found in the bushes. I was in a coma for 3 months, just all the horrible things that you might hear stories of. I'm here to let you know that they are real. So when you do see women out there walking around, or even men, men are being out there dressing as women today and being trafficked. Traffic, prostitution, however it happened, it's all the same. But something happened along the way. Nobody woke up and said, hey, I'm gonna go sell my body. Now, back in the days, you got women where they gonna do what they had to do to put food on the table for their children, but it wasn't nothing of the drug, epidemic. So anyway, what happened is that on April the 8th of 2009, there was something so spiritually fit for me where a light came and just wrapped around me as a pimp tried to get me for the last time. But I was so tired, I took that key and I went and I laid down. But the next morning I woke up to try to get high, and God had something so different for me. I couldn't get high to save my life. I couldn't put a ponytail in my hair. I couldn't put makeup on my face. I thought I was having a nervous breakdown, But what it was it was the day of my deliverance. God had done his part, but there was still something in form of action that needed to take place. And that's when I walked to the corner of Cleveland and 25th, and I got in a car with a police officer, and I tried to turn a date with him. And he spoke some words to me, and he said that God had something so meaningful for me in my life. And I had already had a warrant, and so he took me on to jail. Well, when I got to jail this time, because I done been to prison, I done been to jail enormously amounts of times. I done been to many different programs. But it was my time, you know? And I went to jail and I prayed and I said, God, you know, if I go back out there, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die, you know? And so I heard my attorney, he was not a program attorney at all. He said, Ms. Freeman, we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna send you to jail, we're gonna send you to prison, you know. I said, well, listen, give me mental health court, because you was doing mental health court at the time. I said, well, I heard about it. And I said, well, give me mental health because, excuse my language, but I gotta be crazy as hell to have lived this life for 23 years. I need some help. I know if I go back out there, I'm gonna die. And so he said, no. He said, well, I guess he went down the hall and he heard about this program they was trying to start. And like Judge Herbert said, it didn't even have a name yet. And I said, well, listen, put me in that. You know, put me in that right there. I'll be the first candidate. You know what I'm saying? You can use me, you know, all that, but I'm not going back out there. And so by it not even starting yet, they brought me to court like 8 different times just to, you know, as they would study getting the program together and to make sure that my mind and my heart was lined up in the same place. What took place was they let me out one day. They had threw up the Amethyst program, and I was like, okay, I'll do whatever y'all want me to do. And so June the 22nd, like they actually like let me go. And I said, well, where I'm gonna go? And they said, well, the only thing you gotta do is come here every week, and you know, you're gonna go to Amethyst Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and you know, but that wasn't enough for me. So what I done is I showed up at the courthouse every day. You know, and they like, well, Miss Freeman, what are you doing? I said, listen, I'm trying to save my life, you know? And even though I was walking in there hoochie-fied with hoochie shorts on and, you know what I'm saying, half shirts and stuff like that, and Andre Boxer, she was saying, listen here, when we get done with you, you're going to be professional. You know, you're going to be standing on the side with us. And you know what? It is so funny. And I just thank her and just this team so much because that's exactly what I am today. I'm a very professional. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Y'all clapping for God right now, but thank you. So anyway, so you know, they took a chance on me as well as me taking a chance on them. You know, just taking those simple suggestions and coming to that courtroom every day. And he might not want to admit it, but I turned that courtroom into church. And I was coming in with my boombox and praise dancers and, you know, and different things like that. And I was like, no, Judge Herbert, we're going to do this today, you know. And I so much appreciate him because I was finding my way. I was finding who I was. I never knew who I was as a woman. The pimps out there was always telling me what I wasn't going to be, and that I always would need them, you know, and different things like that. But I knew within my heart, you know, that I'm so much more. I am so much more. I grew up in church as a little girl. I just, you know, because I love to sing. And I used to do a lot of that in his courtroom. And I just knew that I wanted something more. And I really needed the team to have my back and to help push me towards that because I didn't know the rules of life. I didn't know, you know, how to be a mom, a daughter, a sister, a productive citizen of society. I had lost all of that. And so as I was going through the program, it was just so phenomenal because I found my voice. And, you know, they tried to get me to work in the kitchen, and I went to the judge and I said, no, I've never cooked in my life. You know, this is not gonna work for me, you know? And I have been getting confirmation about speaking, and when I speak, you know, that the ladies really listen to me. And I'm so real. I don't sugarcoat anything when it comes to the lifestyle, because if you sugarcoat, you're gonna miss something. And you know, that's what I say about the parents inside of the home. Stop sugarcoating with these kids because they need to know the real. They really need to know what's happening out here. And that's why I go into the schools today and I do a lot of with the students and stuff on speaking. But Judge Herbert had my back, and he brought Channel 10 in, and next thing you know, the media was coming from everywhere. And I was telling my story, and I started being in newspapers, and I started speaking all over Ohio. And we also done a lot of speaking together out at the prisons, and he was able to go and see where I spent eight years of my life in prison in this one cell. And it was so confirmation for me that I'm free. You know, that I'm free and I no longer have to be bound by the chains of human trafficking and by addiction. but they helped me along the way like so much, because I never thought that I would be where I'm at right now. And when I graduated the program, I asked God, you have done so much for me. What is it that I can do for you? And he said, you're going to go out and you're going to save women from the same thing that I've saved you from. And in that time, that's when, due to Judge Herbert and the staff and the team, is when I was elected for 2014 Woman of Achievement of the YWCA. And that was like really the first time where I could really say that I was empowered by women, you know. And it's not only me, but like Miss Priscilla Tyson and Angela Pace and Jane Grota Donatos and Misha with the health department. Just when I walked in that room and all of these women were standing around waiting for me to come through this door, I said to myself, now that's empowerment. And that was something where I said, you know what, I belong right here with them. You know, and I might not have the degrees and all of that stuff that they have, but I never look down on myself anymore. And what I ended up doing is I started a nonprofit organization called the Freeman Project, and I go out and I also go into the drug spots too, and I get these women out of here, and I tell the dope dealers, you know, chalk this up to the game. She gone, you know, and she ain't coming back, you know. And I really thank God for allowing me to be able to do such things, because everybody can't go out to the street and do that. But because I'm not afraid, and I know where God have elevated me to, and he have gave me the power to be able to walk up in those places and to help women to come out of the same situation that I came out of. Not only that, but today I'm also employed with the YWCA as their engagement specialist, where I run my own groups and my own programs for these ladies that deal with mental health issues and prostitution cases and human trafficking and different things of that nature. Also just made a movie called The Turnout, and it's about the truck stops of human trafficking. So I can go on, and this is not about me, but you know, it's all about God, and it's all about what we can do here in the city of Columbus and all over the world, because it's not only their voices, our voices that matter, but it's yours too, and it need a helping hand. You know, when you look around, and I say this a lot, so much of the abandoned buildings and different things like that, so much detox is needed, so much transitional housing is needed, so many things is needed for these women. And that's why, you know what, God blessed me through Zion Christian Fellowship, blessed me with a 6-bedroom house for women of human trafficking, for women that are coming out of the programs that have graduated, because a lot of them still are not ready. So if you just hand them that piece of paper and you say, okay, you graduated, okay, then what? You know, so my objective to that is to open this house up that I've been blessed with for women coming out of the program, so that they can get self-sufficient and they don't have to rely on men to take care of them, but so that they can learn to take care of themselves. Because I'm gonna tell you, I've been living on my own now for about 6 years, and I haven't depended on nothing but the man of God, you know, to pay any bill or anything like that for me, you know. And I'm steady climbing to the top. I'm a little slow, you know, that's because it's the first time for me, but I can say that I'm doing it, and I'm so blessed to be here today and to be able to say that I do celebrate over 7 years of recovery, not of just drugs, but when I put the drugs down, I put the cigarettes down, I put the men down, I put everything down, you know what I'm saying? Because I knew what it was gonna take for me, you know? So I'm just so blessed to be here today and to be able to let you know that that the work that you do is needed, you know, and your dollars ain't wasted, you know. It's just that you can't save everybody. But if you can just save one person, if you can make a difference in one person's life, you know what I'm saying, then you've done something. And that's what I tell this man here all the time, you know, because his heart is so in it. And he's like, oh my God, I'm ready to quit. I lost her. No, you're not. You know what I'm saying? You better look it right here. You know what I'm saying? Look right here, because there's many more of me, and this program is such a success. It's not just me, it's many of us that are doing positive things in life today. And I just want to thank God, and I just want to say thank you again, and thank you, Priscilla Tyson, and we got to get together. I need to talk to you. You know, because the Freeman Project needs some help. I'm serious, you know. I work 2 jobs, and I run a nonprofit organization, and my money go to those women, and that's okay, because God take good care of me, but help is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. Well, yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Again, thank you all for coming here. You know, when I was asked to speak, I was trying to articulate a way of how I can explain our office's role in this type of docket. The overall role of our office, in my opinion, is to not get in the way. We do everything we can just to make sure we are not hindering the progress of the types of stories you're hearing. Typically when you think about prosecution, you think we have to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm the person presenting the evidence. I'm the one presenting most of the witnesses and things of that nature. And the burden is always on the state to make the case. In this particular environment, this is not the case. When I analyze the facts, I'm not analyzing facts just to determine whether or not I can convict a person. A lot of times I'm analyzing the facts, and there's certain trigger things that you may or may not see that may think, oh, this person may need to be in a mental health docket. This person may need to be in a Veterans Court docket or the CATCH program. It's very easy when I look at a police report and I see a person saying or doing something that's not completely normal, and I make a mental note to myself, drug court or mental health. Like in my paperwork, I write that down on the front of my docket, so when I have my case, I talk to the defense attorney, and then there are many times I'm the one suggesting, you think you want to go talk to one of our staff members to see whether or not they fit into a particular program? This is something that I do, and it's something that all the prosecutors in our office do. Like, we hear and we see certain things that some of the defense attorneys don't even see. I can't tell you how many times when I interact with a defense attorney, instead of the first thing that they typically would say, oh, my guy's a veteran, cut him a break. My first response is, well, we got a veterans court. Like, it's not, you're trying to use the status as, I don't want to say some sort of sympathy, but you're trying to use that status to give a positive result for your client, which is fine. But when I hear that, my first response is, well, why don't you go talk to one of our staff members? I mean, if you're going to present the fact that he's a veteran, well, why don't we use the resources that veterans have and go to veterans court? So there are certain things that I listen to and how I analyze my cases, and this is how we interact with this program. Just a minute ago, we were just talking, and Judge Herbert, and she brought up the fact that cases involving passing bad checks or thefts or things of that nature could very well fit into this cycle of the CATCH program. A lot of times pimps are out there, having a person go steal something. I prosecute that person, they plead to theft, and I may have never realized that in all reality, she's the victim of she's the victim of what we're talking about. Something that we were just talking about a second ago was when we have victims in our DV cases, if they have a soliciting record, that is probably the number one indicator of, okay, this person is probably involved in human trafficking. The person who's probably beating her up is not necessarily a family or household member, it's probably your pimp. So there are certain things that we see as an office that, since we've been doing this for so many years, it's just comes natural, and then we have a great relationship with our public defender's office as well as most of the defense bar, and it's very easy to just identify something. And then the way our courthouse is structured is, if I have a question or I think somebody might fit a program, I can just tell the bailiff, he'll call up our staff member, and they'll sit in the back and they'll talk. And then at that point, they would give them a preview of the type of program that they can take advantage of, and it's such an easy process for our office to be involved in this. I mean, once I see something, I can just say, hey, let's go bring up somebody, and that person is usually upstairs in 10-15 minutes. They're talking in the back, and at that point, we get another court date, and 9 times out of 10, that person is likely to at least attempt to get staffing, and so we can determine whether or not that person needs to be in this program. So when I'm analyzing my facts, I'm not analyzing to prove a case to convict the person. I'm analyzing, and when I see certain things, I'm trying to figure out, okay, where do they fit? And I was a Veterans Court liaison for a couple years, and I know I've had many interactions, and we always bought into the program. It's just that how we analyze these cases are such different. Our roles are so different that it's like, how do I tell you all how prosecutors evaluate these particular cases? Now, a lot of times, professionally, I guess our role is to make sure the victims are heard, make sure the victims' rights, and I'm talking about victims of violent crime. Typically, we have to make sure the victim of that violent crime is on board. And 9 times out of 10, that's the case. When you look at a traditional DV case, the victim is usually a family. It could be a family or a household member, and they want help. They're stuck in a cycle of violence. They know that person is probably going to be a part of their life, and they want help. So it's very easy to convince a victim of a violent crime that we think Veterans Court is the best place to be. We think mental health court is the best place to be. We think catch court or something. It's very easy to convince someone for us to be okay with allowing that defendant in the program. Just recently, probably about 2 weeks ago, I actually had my first case where the victim of the crime, she was a bus driver. And she has no affiliation with this person. And it just recently happened a couple weeks ago. I had 2 cases involving assault of her. She's a bus driver. She's minding her own business. This particular person is stalking her. She has no idea who this person is. She's probably had some interaction with him in the past, years ago. But essentially, while driving her bus, he assaulted her on 2 different occasions. So she doesn't know this guy. She knows he's stalking her for whatever reason. So I'm talking to her, and she's very well put together. She's taking notes of everything I'm saying. And the defense attorney is actually the one maybe mentioning, I think, mental health court. And I'm thinking, like, okay, well, I got to make sure she's buying into this before I even go this route. So myself, our victim advocate, talked to her, and we explained that, this person is going to be meeting up weekly. We all know this guy had a problem of some sort. The problem is we didn't know what it was. So she was on board once she realized this guy is showing up every week. He is a very strict level of probation. The general probation that we would have got is nowhere near the type of accountability that these courts do. So once she heard all the things and all the resources that are available to this guy, she was on board with it immediately. I mean, her main concern was until he gets the help, what's going to happen? Where is he going to be? And I structured my offer that this guy was going to be in jail long enough till he got the help. And that's all she really wanted. And a lot of times, this is what the conversation I have with people is okay, how do you protect me, or before this person finally gets all the help that they need? And a lot of times, the defense attorney may not even realize this, but sometimes if I'm looking at something, catch is very easy. The catch court is a very easy example of how I analyze the case, because I understand the victim aspect of these people, of the victim, the people out here on the street. Sometimes I actually make an offer so ugly that they don't take it. And my offer, like, well, why don't you go talk to the people that catch and see if they qualify see if they want to be in the program. I might do this on my own. They may not even realize it. I can look at a case and see a bunch of priors. I'm like, well, whether or not she was in the program in the past, or whether or not she successfully completed, or I don't know. But sometimes at first pretrial, I do not make an offer of time served just to give that person an incentive to go talk to somebody and see if this is a place where they need to be. Mm-hmm. So this is the type of approach that prosecutors have, and it was I don't want to say it's a hard time for me to articulate this, but this is our role in this process. Judge Herbert was talking to me. He said when he approached our boss, Rick Pfeiffer, about this, I think he articulated that Rick was on board before he even finished talking. So, again, our role is to not get in the way of progress, because our goal is the same. We want to make sure that there is some sort of resource that's out there that, that can help not have this person come back to court. Why not be a part of that versus me just trying to lock somebody up for 6 months, 5 months, whatever it is, and then they get right back out and do the same thing again.
Exactly. All right, well, great. Before we open up for questions, Mr. Vandekar has another follow-up comment. But as you can see, when you have a process that is sensitive to extenuating circumstances, that is genuinely trying to solve the underlying issue, these are the results that you get. And I think that what is being what is being done here in Franklin County in the state of Ohio is something that should be commended. In fact, I'm already thinking about ideas and seeing what we're doing in Florida. So,
I'm going to come down January and February, visit with you.
Okay.
We'll be there.
Why? And miss all the great weather in Ohio during that time of year? Mr. Vanderkar.
You had the pleasure. Yeah, I was going to comment on that too. He beat me to it. You had the pleasure of our former mayor, I think, speaking last night. And again, I noticed he was in the room while we were preparing to come in here. I'm sure our present mayor spoke. I saw him in the book. You have Pro Tem, Ms. Tyson here. But all of you realize none of this ever, ever, ever happens without the foot soldiers doing their job. And she shoots me every time I do this to her. Hiding in the back in the yellow is Nancy Sully. And she's the one at 10:30 last night and 10:30 the night before was calling my phone, making sure that Judge Herbert and I were going to be here on time. And that's the way she works for the city of Columbus. And I'm sure every single one of you have those trusted people that you know you can count on. So Nancy Sully, out to you for caring. Thank you.
Now, obviously, we have a room full of elected officials from across the country. So, for some of us who, in our areas, may not necessarily have a program, a specialty docket program, if you can just share with us how the funding structure is set up and how did you all go about working, I guess, here in the state of Ohio. You probably worked with a justice agency or the Supreme Court or so to kind of to standardize how these programs work. If you can kind of walk through that process and share with with our members.
Okay. Really local. And Judge Herbert kind of was joking at you, but seriously, he will get on a plane. I'll get in a car and drive down. I've already offered that to go through Georgia and come to Florida. I was on Fox News a couple weeks ago and literally got calls from Florida. We will come out of state. We will help you. We will help you set things up if you want. Thank you. I got cards, so come see me. I am willing to travel, so is he. He's done it. He's been to what? California, Washington, D.C. Where else have you been? Everywhere. Because to be honest, I think there's only about 3 human trafficking courts in the whole country. He's starting this movement, and this is his passion. But I'm willing to do the same on the drug court, mental health court area. But the bottom line is you've got to go in and you have to study your community. Every community is different. You know, are you Columbus, Ohio, where you have a large county and a large city? Do you get funding from both? Are you a rural county in Ohio where your only funding is going to come from your county commissioners? You have to study your community. You have to look at what social services are available. You have to put them together. When we started mental health court, we started with 60 agencies throughout Franklin County. By the time we were done, we had 4 participate in the program. But you do that kind of process. Every one of you, like you said, are a politician and you know how to build coalitions. That's what you do. And then you just look at what you have. We use city and county money, basically. One national grant, but it was for $25,000. It wasn't huge money.
Yeah. I do have a question for Prosecutor Skinner. You spoke a lot about how you engage in the process to try to recognize the right cases that should be in a specialty docket. Is that a standard protocol throughout the prosecutor's office, or is it left to each respective or individual prosecutor to make that discernment or that decision?
Well, we have about 20 plus prosecutors, so it's hard to speak for them all, but I don't know of any prosecutor who has any issues with a person getting into a program. I think what we do is we all analyze it in our own ways. Maybe because I've been a prosecutor for 10 years, and I can see certain things a lot quicker than other folks can, and it's maybe easier for me to figure this out. But I don't know of any prosecutor in our office that actually does not want any of these programs to succeed. So I would have to say, I think across the board, we all look for certain things, but we all have to do it in our own way. Maybe some of the less experienced prosecutors may have to hear the defense attorney say certain things. You know, I was just schooled 10 minutes ago about the theft and the passing bad checks. Like, it never dawned on me that could have, that could be a part of this cycle.
Yeah.
So it's experience, but I think we're all at least actively trying to look at it.
Okay, great, thank you. Do we have any questions? We have about 10 minutes or so before our lunch. We're supposed to end at 11:45, but you did get a late start, so we will extend it a little so we can get some participation. All right? And if I can ask members to hold it to one question so we can ensure that as many people as possible can ask a question, okay? Go.
Thank you so much. Wonderful presentation, and you were really inspiring. I think it's Miss Bart, is it? Freeman?
Yes,
Freeman.
Barbara Freeman.
Yeah, you were very inspiring, so thank you for sharing your story. My question is for the judge. The fact that you were able to seal the records, is that something that you could do at a local level, or did that require some action from the state?
It's a great question. There's the sealing of the records. The prosecutor's office agreed to allow us to let them withdraw their plea and then dismiss those cases, and then I was able to seal the records of a dismissal. Okay, that's on the discretion of the prosecutor's office to say you successfully completed that, similar to other diversion type programs that may be out there in the country. Now, Ohio law says that if you're a victim of human trafficking, you can get your records expunged. Okay, so that's an Ohio law that allows for someone to come in and testify, and if they can prove by a preponderance of the evidence that they were a victim of human trafficking, I can seal those records. So that's an Ohio law. Did you go through that or not? I can't. No, okay. So we've had a lot of women do that, but that's kind of how we do that. They allow us to let them withdraw the plea, we dismiss the case, we seal them up. So
there's one other creative thing that I could see done, and I assume you have it in every state, is the governor has a pardon power, and you could go through the governors and ask for a pardon. And I'm trying to work with a couple people since I've retired and that graduated and help them do that. One of the other points I wanted to make was Mayor and I were kind of talking back and forth about a question he had at the beginning. A lot of the human trafficking is driven by our opiate epidemic that we have in this country. We are 6 to 7% of the world's population. We are using 80% of the world's opiates. We have a problem. You know, it's medical field, schools, law enforcement, courts. We have to come together.
Great. We will work our way back. Yes. That's fine.
Thank
We'll
you.
just work our way back.
Lorna Mayfield, Charlotte, North Carolina. Thank you again for being here. The question that I have is, as you're going around and you're available for speaking, are you identifying our local judges, prosecutors, for us to be able to build these relationships with? Because I know in North Carolina and Charlotte specifically, we have a lot of conversations around traffic court, but I've never heard this type of program. So are you connecting us to our local court system in order to move this conversation forward?
That's a super, super question. I wish I had a better network of judges. You know, we're all local. I've been to Atlanta. I can't tell you how many. We got anybody from Atlanta here? But anyway, really working hard. It's tough. I go in, here's what I do. I go in and I try to make this sell. and usually it works pretty good. And then the people go back to their judges and say, look, you can see this video, you can come talk to this guy, he'll talk to him on the phone. Please, judge, do this. And I got to say, us judges, we're pretty tough people, aren't we? We're pretty messed up. I'm not going to lie. We get used to our, leaving whenever we want to leave and all this. And this is a lot of extra hard work. So you got to find a judge willing to do it. But I can testify that if you just take that extra step, man, this is worth it. I mean, this time's, I don't know how many success stories we got. It's worth it. It's when Priscilla can tell you it's worth the money. Barb can tell you it's worth the money, So I don't have, the answer is no, I don't have I'm not looking up your judges when I come down there and talk, and maybe that's a great idea. Maybe I should be calling the municipal court down and you're saying, I'm coming down, come to this talk, but that's a good idea. I'm gonna try to keep the answers short so we can get as many questions as possible and then see me after.
Great question. Another thing that can be used for consideration is perhaps presentations to local bar associations, as well as when a lot of these judge candidates are running for office. Bringing these issues up, showing them these videos and the successes that are being made across the country, and specifically here, in Columbus and Franklin County, and to get their thought process on that and to see what they're willing to do once elected to be able to implement some of this. So that might be something for consideration as well, but that was an excellent question. Yes.
Thank you. Barbara, what an amazing testimony, so inspirational. To God be the glory. What I wanted to ask, I know there's a lot of focus on the opiate epidemic, but in our community, primarily, it's not opiates. It's not opiates. It's Molly, it's crack, and those drugs. Where's the focus on that? And and of course, being addicted to those substances, that's where the trafficking come in. So are those records being expunged or sealed, not just the prostitution charges?
Yes. Short answer, yes. We still run. It's kind of odd for me because I'm not there anymore, but I still feel like I'm there. We ran a drug court and we ran an opiate court. We ran both. The process can be the same. It doesn't matter what your drug of choice is, you can still use the drug court model of getting somebody, one, in treatment, two, being drug tested. I love it if it's heroin, Vivitrol, because Vivitrol is an opiate blocker. And it doesn't get anybody high, it blocks them from getting high. But it's still the same process of keeping a person accountable over a 2-year period of time. It doesn't matter what the drug is.
Great, thank you for your question.
This question is for the prosecutor and judge. You mentioned sealing the case once they've completed the program. Is this more of a diversion program or deferred program, one? And secondly, when you say seal it, is it a non-disclosure or is it truly expunged?
You're on top of this, man. I love it. I love you because it's actual expungement. And it's not. You had kind of two parts there, and I got so excited when you said expungement correctly. Because nobody does that. Everybody thinks expungement is sealed, but our law says there's only 2 types of cases that can be expunged, and that an expungement in Ohio means destruction of the record, wiping out of the hard drive, and it's an offense if you talk about it to anybody anymore. So, like, expungement's very, very serious. And right now, though, there's a big fight going on, and I'm kind of pushing different legislation. Right now, they only allow prostitution, loitering, and soliciting to be expunged because it's such a, you're wiping everything out. I'm saying, dude, like she had a crack pipe that I can't expunge, along with the prostitution case, or she had a low-level heroin charge along with that. That's keeping her out of housing right now. That heroin charge or that other charge is keeping her out of housing, or getting her from her kid back or a job. So we're working in Ohio to expand that to allow judges to have the discretion. If she comes in and proves she's a human trafficking victim, let's let her get her record cleaned out.
Thank you for your question. Next question, please.
I'm wild. Thank y'all for being here. And Ms. Freeman, thank you for sharing your story. I can't wait to watch the turnout. Okay, my question is regarding the data. We need money to be able to follow through, but I need to know, where do I get the money to prove that I need specialty courts? Can you teach us how to do that?
Yes. Talk with me afterward, yes.
I'm going to okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Talk with me afterward, and yes.
And also, too, you can also inquire with your local county courts to just get some data in terms of the number of cases and the backlog of those cases, and how much the cost is to hear all these cases and to process all these cases, and I'm sure once that data is analyzed, that you can easily identify, cases like are being addressed as here. So. Mm-hmm.
But
no, I was responding to the data request. I was only responding to the data request to get the data. Yes. Okay. No. Go ahead. You can respond. Go ahead and respond.
But it's a really, really great question, and I can tell you that she spends $250,000 a year just for catch court. I can also tell you that to do nothing, she's spending $5.4 million on women being arrested in jail. And I don't have the data that you want, and that is because of this program 5 years out, we're saving X amount, I don't have that data yet. So I feel your tension as a fiscal conservative that you need to be to your electorate to say, if I spend $200,000, I'm going to save $5 million over the long run. We're working on that, and he may know more. I'm trying to help.
I'll talk to you afterward again, but it's real simple the way we started. The county commissioners were doing a study for a new jail. You all have it, $80 a night in the Franklin County Jail. Okay, and I can give you a formula, and I did it for them. You're spending $80 a night. Here's what I can do in recidivism rate with this program. I'm saving you these number of jail nights, let alone all the other expenses. But I can go into a lot more detail afterward.
Yeah. And some other examples to consider before we go to our next question is, like, for example, like, how much does it cost for one of your city police officers to make an arrest, to process that arrest, to transport them to the county jail, the time missed off being able to patrol this. So there's many ways. I think if we sit down and kind of paint the picture in terms of doing what is the cost to do nothing, and if we come up with an alternative program to at least reduce that cost by 20% or 30%, then that program could perhaps give some justification to implementing the new program. A great question. Yes. Next question, please.
Wilbert Austin from the city of Waco, Texas. I need to find out what are the costs to bring you to our cities.
I'm coming for free. I don't know about Herbert.
I come for free, but I don't pay my own expenses.
That's what I'm talking about.
However much it takes for an airplane ticket, a couple meals, and transportation. I don't come out of pocket for that, but I donate all my time.
Yeah.
He's a big private consultant now, so he may charge more. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question, and our panelists would be available after the presentation to be able to speak specifically.
But sir, you've got some amazing resources in Texas, so I don't know how far away you are from Dallas.
We are working real good on the human trafficking.
Yes. Yeah.
And we are working, getting it straightened out pretty good, but we still, you use every thing that you can to try to clear it up.
Right.
And not just one or two different ideas. But
and a lot of times, if you get somebody just because they're from out of town, all of a sudden they're an expert, right?
Not really, but you still got a story to tell us. And my sheriff, I'll get with my sheriff and have him to get in touch with you guys and try to get our county to bring you down, especially the lady. I like her story.
Great, thank you for your question. I think we have one more question.
She's dying back here.
Yes.
I'm Hattie Portis Jones from Fairburn, Georgia, which is suburban Atlanta. Ms. Freeman, congratulations and thanks for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Wanted to just make one comment that the city of Fairburn actually just passed legislation this past Monday night saying it's a program called Georgia's Not Buying It. And we are endorsing the fact that we are not accepting human trafficking in our area and that we are wanting to be proactive about that. So I really appreciate hearing the information today. What I wanted to ask you, though, and I will follow up with Mayor Pro Tem Tyson, but I'm trying to understand the structure of the program. You've got the city that's involved. You've got the county courts that are involved. So where was the initiation of the program, and who is kind of the leader, coordinator of the dollars that are being spent and the communication about the outcomes of the program?
And as I said, there's Chief Justice, or not Chief Justice, a Justice Supreme Court came to me in 2001, said start a mental health court. We got small grant, started in our municipal court, had one employee. By the time I walked out the door, we had a $1.5 million budget and about 10 employees, because every one of the dockets we named, we have 2 staff members. We have a coordinator and a community outreach person for that program. So basically our court was the point, we were the point. And then we reached out to Columbus City Council, we reached out to our county commissioners, and we reached out to our ADAM board. I don't know if you understand when I say the ADAM board, but that's in Ohio, every county has an ADAM board that funnels mental health and drug and alcohol, state money and federal money down to the local county level. So we look to them often to help us along the way too. So it was kind of the city, the county, and the ADAM board.
Welcome. All right, well, thanks to everyone for your questions, and join me in thanking our great panel and great discussion.